Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town, and today I'm testing 5 different free mobile art apps to find which one is the best. The first app that I wanted to try I'd actually never heard of before, but I was so intrigued by the screenshots I saw that I wanted to try it alongside other apps that I've actually heard of before. This is called Tayasui Sketches, and basically the thing that drew me in initially was the fact that rather than having all of your different brushes locked away in a folder where you have to click on it and then select from there, all of your tools are shown in a monochrome image on the side, so it kind of looks like you have your whole little toolkit right next to you, and I thought that that was really cool. So starting with the pros, the things that I liked about this app are that it felt very good, it felt pretty natural, and it was very similar to drawing in Procreate, which is basically my gold standard for how drawing on the iPad should feel. And it also uses many of the same little shortcuts that Procreate uses, like tapping with 2 fingers to undo, and tapping on the side of your Apple Pencil to switch to the eraser. Both of these things are really, really great shortcuts, and it's cool to see them in a free program like this. I would say the strength of this app is it doesn't overwhelm you. It keeps you with a limited but quality set of tools, and it keeps you with a limited but really flexible color palette. They give you a set of colors, but you can modify any of them and you can add new palette colors, but it really encourages you to develop a palette of colors that you like rather than just leaving you with a color wheel that you have to pick from every time you want to change the color. And I think that that's actually a really, really nice quality of life thing, especially if you ever have trouble with your colors getting too garish. Now, before you get too excited though, there is a major problem with this program, and it's the biggest con of all, and it is that they paywalled layers. Layers are really, really crucial, especially if you do work with line art. I was able to sort of step around it by being more sketchy and painterly and just making sure that my sketch layer was really light, but this was all on one layer because you have to pay like $5.99 to get layers unlocked. I don't think they should have paywalled that. They should paywall more specific features. It makes it seem like this is just a demo rather than an actual tool in and of itself that they wanted to release for free with extra features behind a paywall. It just feels like this is a program that they want you to pay for, and releasing it for free is kind of dishonest because the program is not complete unless you pay for it. The next one that I wanted to try is one that I think is actually quite popular, and that is Autodesk Sketchbook. Now, it popped up right away with a nice little tutorial showing me in a series of little video clips how to use the program. It's definitely a tiny bit more complicated than the Tayasui Sketch, but it also feels considerably more full. I did not see anywhere a prompt to pay for anything. Everything is just actually available, which is really nice, especially in a free program. The layers are of course available, so I wanted to try and do something a little bit more fully featured, like a inked drawing with colors and everything. They also have a ton of blending modes, just like Photoshop does, so you can do like multiply, overlay, hard light, soft light, all of that. I struggled a little bit with their selection tool at first, but once I figured out how it works, it's actually really, really nice. It creates kind of like a little loop around whatever you're trying to select, and then you can use this very intuitive four corner like directional mover, so you can make some like really precise moves even on a iPad or whatever. The inking is pretty nice as well. My number one nitpick about this one is that it doesn't have the 2 fingers to tap to undo. It instead has a requirement that you tap over in the left hand bottom corner, which would be great if you're right-handed, but I'm left-handed, so that's like basically means I have to set down my pencil or put it in my other hand in order to tap to undo, and that's super annoying. There's probably a way to change that. I'm not actually sure if there is or not, but if there is, then that kind of takes care of my biggest nitpick. But I do wish you could just tap with 2 fingers anywhere on the screen and undo. That's really nice. The other thing that I was kind of annoyed by was that for some reason when I export this image, it doesn't save any of the blending that I've done. It leaves it just like unblended. So for some reason, no matter how many times I exported this image, she just had like chunky marker all over her instead of the nicely blended out image that I had in the program. But other than that, Autodesk is a very full feeling, complete, free mobile art app, and I would highly recommend it. Next up is an app called Adobe Sketch, and as a lot of you can probably tell, this is associated with like the Photoshop line of drawing programs. Now, the very first thing that happens when you open this up is that they force you to sign in with your Adobe ID. If you don't have one, you're going to have to make them. You can't use the program unless you sign in somehow, and that kind of bugged me, but it's nothing I can not look past. When I go into the program, the first thing I noticed was that it's extremely bare bones. We're looking at 5 different brushes and an eraser. Additionally, despite the fact that it's so bare bones, you do actually have to click into a separate menu in order to change the color, opacity, and the size of your brush, which seems really weird because a lot of these other apps have been able to do this like in a much more like flowy and intuitive way. So I didn't really like that. That felt kind of clunky. The layer system is pretty easy. There's no problem with that really. And the brushes feel good. They're very responsive. I don't get any like lag or glitchiness. They're not super interesting. I don't really love any one of them. They're all just sort of fine. It kind of felt like sketching with a ballpoint pen, which has a nice feeling to it, but it's definitely not something I'd want to use all the time. They do have a lot of different layer settings. That's actually quite a bit more robust than the like set of brushes that you have, which is interesting because usually these drawing apps really focus on giving you a lot of fun, exciting brushes to use, and then they neglect like blending layers and stuff like that. It seems like this one is kind of the reverse. This one is very, very light on tools, to the point that I find it a little bit problematic. I may be missing something, but in general, I just feel like you need more. You need like a fill bucket and like a way to select and move around things. And overall, it feels a little too bare bones for me. One of the other things that bugged me was that they don't have the Procreate shortcuts either. You can't double tap to undo. I think you can tap your pencil to erase, but now I'm not even sure if you can do that. I'm remembering now that I think that might not even work, which is crazy because, I mean, if you only have 5 different tools to work from, it sucks that you have to manually click to the eraser every time you want to use it. The watercolor was also really, really like unimpressive. It just kind of looks like a slightly more textured, like flowy airbrush, like the one you get in default when you first open up Photoshop Elements, so that's not great either. Basically, it's pretty functional, it works fine, but there's so many other great alternatives that I can't really suggest it. Next up is Ibis Paint. Now this one I've heard a lot about, but I have never used it in my life, so when I first opened it up I was kind of thrown off at first. I didn't like that there was an ad right at the top. That felt kind of cheap and weird. I know that these free programs need some way to fund themselves, but it looks a little tacky considering none of the other ones I have used has done anything like that. I don't know, it's alright. The program itself, on the other hand, is pretty incredible. I have to say this is the most feature-packed app I've ever used, and I was honestly kind of surprised that it wasn't like heating up my iPad because there was so much going on. This is clearly made for comic artists. They intentionally make it so that you can put in comic panels, like that's an actual tool that's like right on the side of the toolbar as if you're going to be using that all the time, which is interesting. I was surprised to see that because I didn't realize that this was mainly focused on comics. The text tool is also something that I have not seen in any of these other apps, and it's really not bad to use. You can really like write in whatever you want. There's tons of fonts to use, and they actually come with comic fonts that work really, really nicely. They like blend in better with the art than your standard Helveticas and Times New Romans. So that's pretty neat. They don't come pre-downloaded though, so you have to like select and download them if you want them, but they don't cost extra money or anything. Honestly, the only thing that I don't like about this program is it does have a little soupçon of cheapness. The ad up at the top, as well as the brushes, while you do get a lot of brushes for free, there are tons of them with this big obnoxious orange button that's like, if you watch a video ad, you can temporarily use this brush for free. It just doesn't feel very good, especially because they mix it in with all the free brushes, so you got to look past like hundreds of brushes that you can't use or would have to watch a video ad to use. It also has a built-in like video speed paint feature that you can do after you draw, but you can't export that, or if you can, I'm just not able to do it for some reason. You can only watch it back in their own player, which is really weird, but at least that allowed me to keep my original drawing that I did with this one. For some reason the recording just didn't take mistake. So if they didn't have this feature, I wouldn't have any proof of how I drew the first time in this program. Now this last one I was taking a bit of a gamble on. It's called Drawing Pad, and I thought that the interface looked kind of cute, but as soon as I started drawing, I realized I had made a terrible mistake. This program is not good. It doesn't have any pen pressure, which is weird because like the Apple Pencil has pen pressure built in. It's not like you gotta do anything complicated, but it also comes default with a glow on the line art tool. So I don't know what they expect you to be drawing, but it's definitely not for like standard illustration. I think it's for like little kids to play with. It does not feel good to draw on at all. It's also like strangely not accurate, which again, I'm surprised that that's a thing that can happen, considering that all of the like hardware elements I know work really well, because obviously the pencil works really great with most of the art programs that I use, but this one, like the pen doesn't actually like connect to the line that you're drawing all of the time. Sometimes they're off by about like 2 centimeters, and I don't know how that happens, but it feels terrible to draw on. Also, there's not even a temptation towards layers. Like there's not even a paywalled layer system. It just does not exist in this program. There's also a watermark in the corner that I think if you click that X, it will just tell you to buy a different version of it that has more features, which is just appalling. Like I can't imagine somebody using this with this watermark on it and like that being good press for them, because it's so difficult to make anything that looks good with it. There aren't any other tools other than the brush and the eraser that like as far as actually like drawing tools. They have a color picker. Their spray and blur tool and their smudge tool is absolutely insane. I have no idea what they were trying to do there, but it's just like, it's literally worse than using like MS Paint right now, because MS Paint has leveled itself up quite a bit. This feels like retro MS Paint in a way. I do not recommend it. Okay, so the last thing I want to do before I wrap up this review is put them in context of each other through this tier maker thing. I'm doing this in Photoshop instead of on the actual site because they wanted to get permissions to my entire Twitter just to use the tier maker site, so I'm not doing that. So first things first, I want to do the drawing pad one. Obviously that's going to be an F. It just like kind of didn't work at all, so unfortunately drawing pad is going right here. IBIS Paint, initially I was like all the way for S tier. I'm not sure if I want to duck it down to A just because it has some like ads and annoying stuff, but I think I think I gotta put it in S just because it really is like a stellar program. It works great. I mean, if the ads really bug you a ton, then that's maybe not the one you want to go with. But overall, like it just has tons of features. So even if they're locking some stuff behind a paywall, it's still like probably the best program here. Adobe Sketch I think is solidly like, oh, I don't know. I'm torn between a C and a D. I think I gotta go D. The thing that's knocking it down to D primarily is just that like none of it feels particularly nice. It is intuitive, but there's other apps here that are equally or more intuitive. And yeah, unfortunately it's gotta go to a D. And also I hate that they make you sign up with an Adobe ID just to use it. That seems like kinda, I don't know. I don't like that. Autodesk, let me look at my notes here. Just because it put the undo in a spot that makes it really hard for lefties, I'm gonna put it down to an A. It's still a really good program, but there's just like a few little things that bug me about it, and it's definitely not like as full of jam-packed with features as like IBIS Paint. And then last but not least is Tayasui Sketches. This one ended up being a lot better than I thought. I thought it was gonna be another like drawing pad situation just because I'd never heard of it before. I actually really like it, but the fact that layers are paywalled, I think I gotta put it into E, because that's not okay. Not being able to use layers is like, is it even an acceptable drawing program at this point? Okay, so this is my final verdict. These two were obviously standouts, and these three were not so great. If you had to use Adobe Sketch, it would work, but these would be the ones I would suggest probably. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and if you want me to review anything else, or if you have any questions about these guys, ask soon so that I still remember, and I'll try to answer them down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Bella Story, Blue Boy, Calpumpong, Clockwork Construct, Dionysus Hadrilis, Dr. Casket, Elizabeth Album, Imagine Creations, JJ Jade, Joseph Copel, Justin, Carla Tapia, Katie Marigold, Kier, Kyle D. Metz, Leblubla, Midnight Doodles, Micah Dactyl, Moosadeer Rachel, Nora Cornelison, Okamore, Ollie, Rosie Warlock, Sergeant Pendulum, The Artsy Moose, Your Boy ST, and Zoe Stardust.